The regular meeting of the Minneapolis Arts Commission will now begin.
Good evening. My name is Joan Vorderbergen, and I am the chair of the Minneapolis Arts Commission. Before we begin, I'd like to note that this meeting includes the remote participation of members as authorized under Minnesota statutes, section 13D.021, due to the declared local health pandemic. The city will be recording and posting this meeting to the city's YouTube channel as a means of increasing public access and transparency. Board meetings are public and subject to the open meeting law, Minnesota open meeting law. I will now call this meeting to order and ask the clerk to call the roll so that we may verify the presence of a quorum.
Thank you. Commissioner Aylesworth.
Present.
Commissioner Bedbury. Commissioner Brinkman.
Present.
Commissioner Silky Jones.
Present.
Commissioner Kevorkian. Commissioner Mansfield.
Present.
Commissioner Midak. Commissioner Smith.
Present.
And Commissioner Swinton.
Present.
And Commissioner Vorderbruggen.
Present.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. With that, we will proceed to our agenda, a copy of which was posted for public access to the city's legislative information management system, which is available at lims.minneapolismn.gov. Thanks, everyone. I will just quickly say that Commissioner Bedbury sent a note that she might be joining us a little later. Just so you know, Ellie is not able to join us tonight, and Commissioner Middag is traveling, and I'm so happy for her. So she is missing the meeting this evening, just so you know. So we'll start tonight with introductions and updates, but while I cannot follow up Janae's Black History Month dedication by any stretch of the imagination, because that was so unbelievably inspiring and fantastic, that when I asked exec who wanted to do the Women's History Month dedication, I just heard silence, and I think we were all just like, who can follow that, right? But so I took it to task, and so what I did is, as a person who really appreciates data, I am going to drop the 2020 status of women and girls in Minnesota research overview that was led by the Women's Foundation of Minnesota and the Center on Women, Gender, and Public Policy from the Humphrey School of Public Affairs, in case anyone wants to nerd out about gender equality from an economic, a healthcare, lots of different lenses. You may look at it there. And then I also pulled a quote from a painter who is not local. And actually, I hadn't really seen this painter's work, but I did appreciate this quote. So the painter's name is Victoria Selbach, and she has a body of work doing figure painting of nudes. And this was a quote that she said about her work. The power to show real women, honest, present, complex, and complete, individuals radiant in their own right, not stripped of their personhood or manipulated for a fantasy or a metaphor. I like to think the power of lifting the veil from individuals helps to challenge society's darker fetishes and beliefs, perhaps shatter notions of bigotry and stereotypes. And one of my greatest joys is working with women who do not usually dwell in this side of their beauty, and yet in the work recognize themselves completely as they are and magnificent. Just also to want to just honor, non-binary trans community too in all of this, and International Women's Day. And, we'll just continue to do these tributes as ways to kind of center our meeting hopefully in a positive way, to be touching on these topics each month. So I'm open to any suggestions you might have, or if anybody wants to jump in on this kind of new thing that we're trying out. So any comments or feedback? Anybody want to share anything about Women's History Month? Okay. All right, so next we're going to do introductions, and I'm going to have our guest go last, if that's okay. So I want us to be able to just kind of tell your name, the ward that you represent, how long you've been on the commission, maybe your area of focus, or what your, just a little bit about you, like what area of the arts you represent, and then tag the next person. And if you have any burning updates that you want to share with the group too, feel free to do that during this time too. So who would like to start? You can raise your hand. Okay.
Hi, I'm Lana Aylesworth. I'm in Ward 11, Jeremy Schrader's ward, and I'm on the commission as a layperson starting last year in 2020. Rough year to start, but I like to think it was still fruitful, and I'm now serving as secretary and also chairing our policy subcommittee. So that's a little bit about me. My background is in arts admin, theater performance, and I come to this commission as a strong arts enthusiast. I'm gonna tag Crystal.
Thank you, Crystal Brinkman, she, her, hers. I am an arts administrator seat. I live in Ward 1, work in Ward 3 and 4, 3. And I'm the director of Culture Club Collaborative, which is an arts organization. I'm also a performer and musician. And I would like to tag Mari.
Hi, I'm Mari Mansfield. I'm a painter and graphic designer living in Minneapolis. I am representing Ward 9. And I can't remember if I was supposed to say anything else, so I'm excited to be here. I will tag Jeff.
Hello, my name is Jeff Swinton. I am in Ward 7, and I'm a lay person, and I've been on the commission for 1 month. And excited, and as I said earlier, for folks who might not have been on, I attended the panel arts today and learned a ton. So just digging in and trying to learn as much as I can. And I will tag David.
This is David Smith, Ward 1, he, his. I'm a layperson in the group. I'm on the public art committee as well, and I was in that meeting previously, so a little tired and burnt out, but doing good. And I will tag Ahava.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ahava Silky Jones. I also represent Ward 7, she, her, hers pronouns. I am in education, arts education specifically. So I'm the executive director of Da Vinci Academy for the Arts and Sciences, a K-8 charter school in the Twin Cities, greater Twin Cities area. And I also serve on the Arts Education Advisory Council for Americans for the Arts. I have been on this extraordinary arts commission for a year and 3 months, so going on year 2, and excited to be here. I will tag Tina.
Hello, I'm Tina Beach. I am staff for the city of Minneapolis. I work with Mary Altman in long-range planning. I'm now in operations too, so and I also support the Arts Commission with administrative support. And I will tag Joan.
Thank you. Yep, Joan Vorderbergen. I work in wards 3 and 7 downtown. I'm the director of Hennepin Theater District Engagement for Hennepin Theater Trust. This is my 4th year serving on the commission, my 2nd year as chair. I serve on the executive committee and the public art advisory committee, and I did just join the policy committee because I could not help myself with the work that's being led in that area. So I am really, kind of a terminal nerd on this commission. So, but really excited about all the work that we've advanced even just in these past few months, and so excited for tonight's agenda. Perhaps we finish up a little bit early even, and I appreciate everyone that's here. I know we have a little bit of a smaller group, but doing some big work, so thank you. And I will tag Mary.
Hi, everybody. I'm Mary Altman, public arts supervisor, and I work with the commissioners in particular who are working on the public art advisory panel and the policy committee right now. I just want to say I have so much gratitude to the commissioners who were in a 3-hour panel meeting this afternoon, then had about a 20-minute break, and then landed back here. And they have probably a 4-hour panel meeting next month because of this. And this is the panel's working extra hard right now because they're also doing some artist selection, and I'm just so grateful for their thinking and their commitment. This is in addition to some of the other committees they're on at the same time. So I want to thank everyone so much for the great work you did today and the great work you always do.
Thank you, Mary. Yes, for real. And sorry, David, I forgot to ask you for your feedback earlier also when we were in the waiting room. But thank you too for sitting in on that long meeting today and then coming this evening. Anybody else on the call as far as staff guests that we missed before we move to introductions with our guest? Okay. Director Shelton Walczak, welcome.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. I am Danielle Shelton Walczak. I am the Director of Strategic Initiatives in the City Coordinator's Office. So I have a fairly varied portfolio, which includes sustainability, the Promise Zone, arts, culture, and creative economy, and race equity and human trafficking. And I've been at the City Coordinator's Office for a little more than 2 years. Prior to that, I came into the city through the Civil Rights Office. I was their Director of Complaint Investigations and led a bunch of attorneys in investigating mainly employment discrimination issues. And prior to that, I was in private litigation practice for about 20 years, a little less than 20 years. So that's my background.
Thank you so much for joining us this evening. We really appreciate you making the time. So before we move on to our discussion section of our agenda, does anyone have any corrections for the minutes for February's meeting? Superb. Okay. We'll keep it moving then. So on our discussion tonight, we're going to put updates from the director at the top. We're going to discuss the vacancies and the work that's happening in that area. Approve our 2021 work plan. We're going to talk about some council member outreach that we're going to do. And then if there's any other comments, but so we might have a little bit of a tighter meeting, and I'm sure our public art advisory panel will appreciate that. So, Director, if you would like to just provide us with some updates. We have sort of been hearing through the grapevine about changes that have been happening through the arts working group, and we were really interested in understanding what those changes are, what that means to us, and just any other insight or information that you can provide us so that we just are in the know and kind of can hear it from leadership versus getting bits and pieces from other places. So thank you so much for agreeing to come and provide those updates for us, and any other information that you feel is important or might be important to share. And then hopefully you can just take a minute or two to be able to have any questions or answer any questions that any of our commissioners might have. So thanks again.
Yeah, no problem. And I'm just going to preface this by saying I have a dog that's going a little bit out of control. So if you hear some barking in the background, I apologize. So I don't know exactly how much and how far back I need to go, but I will say that I believe that you are aware of a resolution that the City Council did in late 2020 to kind of reaffirm their commitment to arts. And that was around the time of markup for budget. And so that was around November, December of 2020. And now we are in 2021. And there has been, I would say, continuation of that work. A lot of it was paused in the majority of 2020 because of the pandemic. And so what initially had begun in 2019 was paused from 2020 because of the pandemic. And so that resolution was to kind of bring the enterprise back to, we still have this arts work going on. We as council members are still supportive on it, and we want it to continue. So it was kind of like a reminder. And so after we came back, after the holiday, we were I would call them the core group, and I'll tell you what they are. The core group includes myself, someone from HR, the program manager, Gogun of Arts, Culture, and Creative Economy, and then one of our policy staff members in the city coordinator's office. We call ourselves the core group simply because we synthesize the information that was gathered in 2019, and which is the synthesis of a SWOT analysis that was done, a synthesis of an arts audit that was done across the enterprise, a synthesis of information that was gathered from our arts experts, which included Mary and Golgoon and someone in Public Works who work in furthering arts and getting their opinion about what should be core work and I would say supplementary work or supportive work and tertiary work. And we took that information and we synthesized it. And part of the second staff direction was to take that information and make a recommendation about what art should look like in the enterprise. And I'll be more specific in saying, where should art live in the enterprise? Should it stay decentralized? I mean, part of the SWOT analysis is that we determined that arts across the enterprise was extremely decentralized. And so part of the initial recommendation in 2019 was based on the SWOT analysis, which also had participants from the mayor's office and the city council's office who were in that SWOT analysis and were active participants. The recommendation was that it should be centralized. Well, if it's centralized, where does it live? And so that was part of the recommendation. And then also, what would it cost? When you try to put something together and centralize it, there's an FTE cost to it. There's a programmatic cost to it. What are some of the things that we should be doing? What we were talking about, synthesizing what should be the core work, the supportive work, and the tertiary work. If that's the case, how much does it cost? Is it already in the enterprise? Does it exist now? If it doesn't exist now in the enterprise, should it exist in the enterprise? And how much would it cost to exist in the enterprise? And so we just recently met with those council members and other department heads, which includes the city coordinator, which included the head of CPED, the department head for CPED, and the department head of Public Works, and a member from the mayor's office, and took that synthesized information and said, well, here's the recommendation. We believe that it should be a department. It should be one department. We told you, we went through the weaknesses on it being decentralized and the strengths that we would gain if it were centralized. And so we believe instead of it being a division in a existing department, it should live on its own as a department. It should be given the visibility and the resources that arts needs to be effective, not only within the enterprise, but more importantly, externally outside the enterprise, not only for our artists, but for our communities who artists come in and help support. We also talked about the cost of that. And we kind of said to the elected officials, we look at it as phasing because we think it's going to be expensive. And we looked across peer cities, and quite frankly, we did a comparison of peer cities on current programming and how much they're spending. So we were trying to do apples to apples in programming and spend, but we also did a greater one in just pure spend in comparison to what Minneapolis is spending now and what a future recommendation for Minneapolis to spend should be. And we're still fairly, quite frankly, we're still fairly behind. The city has not dedicated a lot of money to arts in a really profound way. And we feel like, particularly now, that's necessary. We've seen, we've seen lagging indicators. We've had foundations who have kind of removed themselves from some art supports over many, many years. We have grants that are art supportive grants that are ending. We've seen what's happened with the civil unrest and the murder of George Floyd, and how artists have really come in and helped to not only create, to help create a better dialogue between the city, which we've always had, but it's even now more important than ever. And two, to help communities process persistent, ongoing racialized trauma that has only exacerbated itself with the murder of George Floyd. And so we have this, the land, and plus we have the landscape, we cannot forget, of COVID-19 and the pandemic, which has devastated our arts communities and organizations. And so with this conversation that we had with them, and that you really need to put money towards arts, we're doing it against the backdrop of a very different landscape, I think, from when we started this project, and that there's more of a sense of urgency now than ever before that the city commit itself in a really, really profound way in supporting arts and culture within the city of Minneapolis. So that's been the recommendation. There will be a presentation to POGO next week of basically what I just said and what we gave to some of the elected officials early on and those department heads. We'll just do it in a more formal context. This is always up to the elected officials on whether they believe that the recommendation should move forward, whether they believe that there should be this level of economic and programmatic and human resources dedicated to arts. At the end of the day, staff can only make a recommendation, but they make the final decisions on those recommendations. And that's what we were tasked with back in 2019. And then, like I said, went on a hiatus because of just the chaos of 2020. And then we were under a extremely short time frame to get them a recommendation in early 2021. So that's essentially where we're at right now.
Thank you. That's a lot of information, and it's really, really helpful to know what that process has been. And I'm happy that there's a group of people coming together at the leadership level to be advocating for increased investments for art and artists, especially with all of the challenges that we're facing. I know that the rest of the group probably has some questions. I'm curious if you're able to tell us about any direct staffing changes that we should be aware of, and also if through this work group, if there were any conversations about the commission and how they might fit into the new the new department development, or what we might expect.
So I think, let me talk about your first question, which is the staff development. When we looked across the landscape, and it was really interesting that arts audit was the first time that had ever happened to figure out where there was art spend, right, throughout the enterprise. And what we found is that there were some program spends here and some people doing a little bit of, you know, of I don't even know if you can say it arts work. It might be trying to bring artists in within different programs and things like that, to utilize their skill set, and also to create more exposure for artists within the enterprise and within the city. But that spread across the enterprise. And what we were finding is that there were really only a few people who 100% of their work was dedicated to arts. And that was really Golgoon and her staff. And that was, and Mary and her staff. And so because we couldn't parse out, you know, just those small programmatic dollars, and trying to figure out, well, you know, someone in public works, their only job is like 20% of it is arts related. It had a lot of labor implications, department planning implications, all of that stuff, that we thought that the cleanest thing, and a difficult thing, because it's still change management. I you know, at the end of the day, I am a supervisor, and I am responsible for people, and I care about how people feel. And this change is very profound. There has been a discussion about this since 2005, before, you know, the city of Minneapolis was a glimmer in my eye, not even. So this conversation apparently has been going on for a long, long time. And so we thought about putting those 100% FTEs together in this one department. And the recommendation is that it's a city coordinator department. The city coordinator has 5 departments, and the recommendation that this would be a 6th department. Part of it in the department realm, I'm getting a little off track, but I'm trying to, you know, lawyers love context, so forgive me if I'm boring you to death. But you know, we went through an analysis, and part of what we heard from those employees, those 100% FTEs, that there has been so much instability in arts, that there has been the ability within the enterprise to, depending on who the elected officials are and department heads are, that the people can get moved and jockeyed around. And at the end of the day, that's just, from my perspective, and from theirs too, because they're falling victim to it. That's just unacceptable, right? It creates a lot of instability and insecurity that we just, as an organization, we shouldn't want to continue. And so we've thought about bringing those 100% FTEs together, but we don't think that's enough, quite frankly, and it isn't. We can't expect to just bring people together and be like, oh, okay, now you're together and it's going to work perfectly and the vision is going to be great. And that's just a fallacy. And what we were trying to tell electeds is, it's not enough to say that you've centralized arts in a way where you just put FTEs together and that's enough. It's not enough. You have to, of those foundations that we already have through Mary's work, through Golgoon's work, they're not on all cylinders. They have to be invested in. They have to have ongoing revenue streams. They have to have additional FTEs to support the work that they're doing, on top of needing new FTEs to create a solid foundation so the arts work in the enterprise grows to the vision that the elected officials have claimed to us that they want arts to rise to. That costs money, that costs time, that takes time. And so what we've told them and what we've given them is a kind of a phase A, B, and C. And phase A is really, let's ground this work. Let's look at the work that Mary and Golgoon are doing. Let's support it. Let's provide more FTEs. Let's provide more program dollars. Let's get them the support that they need and have been asking for a very long time. And let's get a couple of more FTEs in here, because we're still going to have some of that decentralized arts work from people who really don't know how to work with artists, right? And so we need someone, and this literally is a full-time job, to go around and to, liaison is not the right word because I don't think it's impactful enough, but someone to come in and work with all of those departments and say, you just don't engage artists the same way that you engage someone who works at a law firm and is doing a contract, like getting an RFP. It's different. And having that work come within that department so the expertise is spread across to throughout the enterprise of people who are attempting to engage artists in some programmatic work. So that's one issue, or one of my answer on the FTEs. I'm afraid I forgot your second question. I apologize.
No, it's okay. This is good. So have those changes already happened as far as like
no.
No?
No,
okay.
no.
Okay.
No. This is a budgetary concern for the city of Minneapolis at the end of the day. We are saying with phase one, we know that we have a overall between all the art work, when we look at the coordinator's office and CPED, and even some of the work in public works, that we've got about a $2.5 million investment, right? And we have asked them to provide, in phase A, we're asking for an additional $3 million. And then in phase B, we're asking, I can't remember, but the overall between A, B, and C is an additional investment of $7 to $8 million on top of what we have right now. And that doesn't even get us really close to our, when you see a graph, and I wish I don't have it, but when we're looking at peer cities, even with the total investment of $7 million, we're still pretty far behind when it comes to arts. We're, I just don't believe, and I think that there are council members who believe the same things, the ones who have been kind of in the background and supportive of this work, that we have not taken arts as seriously as we should have as a city, particularly being known across the United States as one of the premier arts cities and states. And so it's really astounding to me once we start, pulling all that away and seeing what our real investment has been. And our investment has been fairly minimal.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And that's really encouraging to hear. And especially being that the creative sector and the economy that drives in the city as well, like comparatively to other sectors, it's pretty phenomenal. So the second part of the question was, has there been any conversation about where the Arts Commission lives within the reorganization in the city coordinator's office? Because I think right now, Mary is our direct point person. We live within CPED, so we're just curious, has there been a conversation about us?
There hasn't. The extent of the conversation is that, one of the things that I got to do with the city attorney's office is look across those policies and peer groups at other commissions across the state, and really seeing the work that they've done and how they've been integrated in a more, I would say that the work and the duties of the commission have been more profound and clearer than what the current commission ordinance says. So I think that if we are to stay on track, and this is just me, because literally we haven't had this conversation, but I think if we're looking at how we're going to design a really robust structure, and not just internally, but externally with the commission, and getting to and understanding what constituents' needs are, we do need to look at the ordinance, because right now you're right, you're living in CPED, and that's not gonna, it's not gonna live like that anymore, right? So at some point we're going to have to, I think, revisit it and see how to, we got to move you. Well, it's not like you really live in CPED, but you're mostly, you know, your ordinance is mostly public art. So to expand it to include what we see the larger department doing.
And I think that the ordinance is much broader, but I think the policies are not. So it's been confusing for us, and it's been, you know, I think it's just been generally confusing for our elected too, and understanding like exactly how to engage with us and intersect with us. So that's just been a source of a lot of confusion and contestation. And, you know, I'm sure you've seen and felt a lot of that coming your way, and another going out in other directions, that we're really trying to better understand our role and the value proposition that we provide for the city, you know, and the constituents that we represent as well, and how we fit in. So I want to give the opportunity of anybody else to answer. Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
And I think it's a really good opportunity to not be acted upon, but, you know, as chair, excuse me if I say your name wrong, Vorderbergen, sorry, and Lana and I, the executive committee, kind of talk some more. It's a way for us to open the lines of communication, figure out where this frustration has been, and as we move forward, get, you know, from both of our sides, how we can be more effective. Because the goal here, and I don't know if you hear it in my voice, is because quite frankly, I am a frustrated artist, right? Like my mom wanted me to go to law school instead of art school. So she won out. You know, the goal here is to really, really, really make art a profound initiative, not only internally, but externally within the enterprise. So it's to all of our benefits, but particularly the enterprise's benefit, that we have an open line of communication and we talk to one another about how do we go about in utilizing not only the voices here, but the voices within the enterprise, and then bringing in those outer voices that you all represent through your wards, and that also too, you know, the council members represent through their wards. So I think that I'm actually really excited about the prospect. I know that some people are very nervous about it, and I think that people are hesitant because we've seen the enterprise. You know, I think right now, and we've kind of told the enterprise, it's an all or nothing proposition to us. We don't want any fallacies here, that either invest the dollars and the time into creating the arts vision that you see, or just then leave it as it is. And that's hard for me to say because I think it can be so much better. But there needs to be, you know, like, I'm a pretty straight shooter, and so it's like, if you're not going to put the money towards it, then let's not get up the hopes of the people who are working so hard in the enterprise in arts. Let's not get up the hope of the people, the residents of Minneapolis, and quite frankly, let's not get up the hopes of you all. We're really trying to affect change. Art, Minneapolis needs to invest in art given its current, in a really profound way. I keep saying that, in a really, really profound way, given our current status.
Thank you. Commissioner Swinton, you have a question?
Yes. First of all, thank you so much for the update, and it's quite encouraging. A two-part question. Sure. First, can you give us a little flavor for the reaction of the small group that you did talk to in preparation for the bigger group of elected officials? And the second part Is there an opportunity for the commission to, if we have, and I'm new, so if we've already gotten access to it, then I'll get it. It's some of the background work that you guys did in terms of the art audit, the SWOT, and the presentation that you guys are going to do. Is there opportunity to get some accessibility to that information?
So sure, let me answer the last question first. I thought that you guys had seen, because we did a presentation in 2019 of the SWOT and all of that stuff. So if you haven't, or you don't have it, or you haven't seen it, because that was all posted in limbs and things. So if you haven't seen that, let me know. And you can't find it, and I can maybe send it to the chair if you want to send it out or something. Just let me know. And then, that's not a problem. And then the presentation is actually going to be posted. We haven't finalized it, so I won't give it to you yet. It was just kind of like a preliminary. So we're still in the phases of finalizing that for POGO for next week. And then it'll be posted again on LIMS. But it's the POGO meeting at 1:30 on the 24th. Wednesday, I think that's whatever Wednesday is, I believe it's the 24th. The initial response is that from the council members, and I've been having dialogues with department heads on a weekly basis regarding as we've moved along on this. But I really, a lot of times the concern is how elected officials are going to take this, because at the end of the day, they can look at the recommendation all day long and they cannot take it. They were excited, but they were actually really excited about the idea and understood why we made it a coordinators department as opposed to a charter head department, which we had thought about, but it was time that it takes to do that and all of the other things that would be on the ballot this year. They were concerned, as normal, with money and where would we get this money? And there was a conversation of, can we do less? And this is where I said my 2 cents was no. I mean, here's A, B, and C. And we've told you all of the reasons why you shouldn't do less. And so if you're asking us if it's an all or nothing proposition, we're telling you, yes, it's an all or nothing proposition. And so we don't know how that is going to be. We didn't really get into the intricacies of how that was received. They take in the information, and I think that we'll probably find out as time moves along. But it wasn't so much the concern, or there was no feedback on, no, we think you're wrong. We don't think that you should be doing this program. We don't think that we should be investing in our current arts and expanding it. We don't think that this timeline is wrong. It was none of that. It was mainly about the money.
Thank you. What other questions or comments does anyone have for the director before we allow her to get on with her evening? This is really insightful, and we really appreciate being brought forward with clearly hearing that moves are being made for increased investments in the centralization of arts for the city of Minneapolis is a long-standing conversation. And I believe that it, I don't want to speak for everyone here. We have some new people, but I believe that, the commission has had conversations about this too, that why don't we have an office of art and culture like other cities? And why aren't we working towards that? So again, we've only received information sort of via bits and pieces. And so I think this is probably the most comprehensive summary that we've received of this initiative. So that's why we're really appreciative that you're bringing it to us today. Any other questions? I guess one of my questions would be like, what, can you foresee a space in which we might choose to support the ask that's being made of council members. And I can't commit to that between now and next week, clearly, but like, you know, this is just one of the ways that I think the commission can at times be helpful, and having a conversation, and at least, you know, our relationships with our elected, but some of us are, you know, really know our council members well, and we can reach out to them, or we've been, you know, working with that in that way for a long time. Others of us have different levels of comfortability, but we're definitely working on that. And we do feel strongly that we do represent the areas in which we live and work, for artists and arts professionals, and those who really need the arts as well. So anyway, if you could, you know, if you can speak to, like, can you see the commission being of benefit?
Absolutely. And I think as you learn more, so I will leave this to you, that if you want me to come back and update you at any time or want to reach out to me, please let me know. Yeah, I think so. And it, you know, there's not, I mean, your support, and just as you learn information and your support and how we figure out how to work better, and we're going to start doing that next week if we get everything on the calendar, that as you learn and you believe that you're supportive, just reaching out and letting them know that, and quite frankly, your voices being in community and on the ground and artists yourself and are just so profound. I mean, I can only say so much, and they, you know, I'm the director of strategic initiatives, right? But hearing from you and knowing other artists within the community and being able to speak on their behalf and saying, we believe that this is going to benefit the enterprise and artists, because that would be so great, in talking to them. And there, you know, we have to go through the mayor's budgeting process. So I don't know if you're familiar with that, but the mayor starts his budgeting process, and it will start in the next couple of weeks. So that the council and stuff, they don't bypass that. So we still have to, so we'll go through the process of asking the mayor for the support, for the budgetary support. And we'll just see if he provides it. And then if he does in full or in part, well, if he does in part or none, then it's, you know, there's a possibility of going into markup, which would be later on in the year. And that's where it really, you know, that's when the rubber would really hit the road. But we're hopeful that the mayor will, and the mayor was, Heidi Ritchie in the mayor's office was part of that conversation, and she deals a lot with the budget. And so we're hopeful that the mayor in the budget, when we make the request, will support it. But, you know, sometimes hard decisions that have to be made, and I don't know what goes into those. But like I said, I'm hoping there's department head support for it. There's some council support for it. So we'll see, but we'll go through the mayor's process first. But you can be very helpful, and just, you know, I think I've said this before, and I won't belabor it and take up too much of your time. There are just certain things that I and us in the enterprise cannot see and just don't know. And to just, what I'm trying to do here with my initial email from the chair, and I want to thank you for that, for the invite, is that if we can open the lines of communication more, you can help me and us see the things that we just simply can't see, because we're not in the community in the same way. And we're also within a political system that makes it difficult for us to see things too. So not only just reaching out to elected officials if you are supportive of this, but also just having the dialogue with me or with us to say, have you thought about this? Have you, et cetera, is just really helpful.
Madam Chair, can I just raise a connection here?
Sure.
So the Policy and Advocacy Committee, I don't know if you know this, Danielle, but the Policy and Advocacy Committee is helping the commission plan their annual meetings where they all go around and talk to the council.
Oh, okay.
And so the timing of this will be that those meetings are going to overlap with the proposal for the department. And so, and I don't know if you know this, but the Arts Commission was extremely instrumental in having the council adopt the percent for art ordinance about 5 years ago. I mean, it wouldn't have passed without the Arts Commission. They got the votes on the council, and they helped the council understand that there was strong community support for this. So it seems to me that the Policy and Advocacy Committee could really use some talking points around this from you, so that when they go to their council members, they are speaking the same language that you are speaking.
Yeah, we're ready to go. I know we're going to get an update about this a little bit later in our discussion, but we're doing meetings with council members between now and mid-April. So we're moving. We're on the move.
Okay. All right. I didn't know. Thank you. I had no idea about that. So
of course, and thank you, Mary, for bringing that forward. So I think that would be really helpful if it's possible.
If talking points, they're really good at using them.
Okay. Yep. Let's figure out how to coordinate that, and let's have more of it. Like I said, we'll be meeting next week, hopefully, so we can talk about it a little bit more.
That sounds good. Any other questions, feedback, comments? Okay, well, thank you so much for your time. This has been so richly valuable to us. We really, really appreciate it. And we're super excited to be in dialogue with you moving forward about these changes, and excited about the changes and how we can help shepherd this work, and help shepherd these changes for the city. We want them to.
Thank you so much for the invite. I will be happy to come back anytime. It's been a real pleasure to meet you all, and hope to learn more about you.
Sounds good.
All right. Thank you all.
Fantastic. Thanks, you guys. I wasn't 100% sure about how that was going to work out, so I guess I have to say that I'm glad that we got such a comprehensive overview. It felt very, very informative. Doesn't feel as if there are any surprises right now, although we will see how this advances. So if anybody, if you feel like you'd like to have a dialogue about this post meeting too, just let me know. And we'll be setting up a time to meet with the director next week, hopefully when Commissioner Middag is back from vacation. And let me know if you really want to be a part of that conversation too. I know that I had proposed Commissioner Middag and Aylesworth to join me. But if you would really like to be there too, I'm kind of open. It sounds like she's pretty open to dialogue too. So just reach out and let me know. Okay, any other comments, questions? Okay, moving on. So just want to let you know that we did interview, I think, 6 candidates last week. And while we were super appreciative of all of the applicants, we have made the decision to advance one forward. So we are advancing Lucy Thompson, who is a retired city planner. Really intelligent, bazillion years working inside government. Great time for her to be coming on as we start to look at policy changes and just really digging down into the work. She's going to be, I believe her talents and abilities are going to be tremendous. We did not see the representation that we wanted to see. I don't know, Mari, if you want to just quick kind of update about sort of like what we kind of saw and why we made the choice we made.
Yeah, sure. I think a lot of the candidates were very qualified, and they were all really great to speak with. I think we were just definitely dealing with a diversity issue, them all being, I believe they were all white women, I'm assuming, not going to, over the age of 40. So I think we were just working on trying to pick someone who at least could bring a lot to the table. She seems like the kind of person who would, I don't know, do policy for fun on the weekends. So I think Lucy will be a great addition in that respect.
Yeah, it was really fun to talk to her. She kind of gave us a lot of energy. So yeah, we're excited about her. So we'll be excited to move her forward. And then also, Ahava, thank you so much, has been having conversations with Purpich. I know that we've been trying really hard to create more paths of accessibility for these seats. And so we'll see, we extended the deadline to March 31st. So if you have any young people, if you have any people who represent communities of color or any other, you know, we really want to make sure, you know, also the wards that are not yet represented really matter on this body. So I know that Tina has sent that around. If you need to find that information again, you feel free to reach out. But yeah, just, you know, if everybody could just even invite one person. I mean, as you can hear, like, this is shaping up to be a very different year, right? Like, I think that we are going to have a more powerful seat at the table that we have been looking for. We're going to be making changes that will impact policy for years to come. It's exciting times. So let's get some voices in here that need to be represented. I really, really do feel a sense of commitment to having some young people joining our commission, not only for their perspectives, but also, you know, I'm hoping that that's a demographic that will inherit this work, right? So let's get our future leaders at the table. So thank you, Ahava, for trying to advance that. And if anybody needs any more information or support, just, you know, reach out. I think we all really would want to see the same things. Any other questions about that? All right. Okay. And so now item number 3 under discussion is the 2021 work plan approval. I sent that via email. I think in the interest of time, you can tell me if you feel differently about this, but really the goal of tonight is just to get this approved because everyone's been working on it in bits and pieces together through their ALT committees, having meetings and telephone meetings and Teams meetings and sort of emails back and forth to get this where we want it to be. You know, does anybody want to call out anything within their particular ALT or their subcommittee that they're really excited about? Otherwise, I just think like reading through it for each of the 4 just might not be the best use of our time, unless someone feels differently. Okay. All right. Well, thank you for getting it through and getting it, you know, and I know that like this, it's okay for this to be a living document. Also, it really actually should be a living document, as we'll be kind of ticking off the stuff that the goals that we have. New goals may arise. And we last year, for obvious reasons, we went through, I think, 2 amendments of our work plans because we had to, because there were so many barriers that we faced. So we can always amend the work plan if something suddenly becomes a really big priority for us, or if we're just not capable of making it go. But for today, I would really love to have a motion to approve the 2020 Minneapolis Arts Commission work plan, 2021 Minneapolis Arts Commission work plan. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Okay, we have a proper motion before us. Is there any discussion before the clerk calls the roll? I see no hands. Okay, with that, I'll ask the clerk to call the roll on the motion.
Commissioner Aylesworth,
Aye.
Commissioner Brinkman,
Aye.
Commissioner Silky Jones, Commissioner Silky Jones.
If you want to come back to her, I think that she might have just lost her internet, so.
Commissioner Mansfield,
Aye.
Commissioner Smith,
Aye.
Commissioner Swinton,
Aye.
Commissioner Vorderbruggen,
Aye.
and Commissioner Silky Jones.
I just got kicked out and back in. What am I saying aye with regards to? I just thought I should confirm.
We're passing the 2021 work plan.
Absolutely. Enthusiastic aye.
Okay, with that, the motion passes. Thanks, everybody. Congratulations. That always feels really good. It's like our start of the year homework. All right. Woohoo, cheers. Okay, moving on. The next item on our agenda is our council member outreach, and I'll ask Commissioner Aylesworth to get us up to speed about what we can expect.
Hello, everyone. I just want to do a quick recap for our few new commissioners about where we stood when we left off in 2020 with council member outreach. We had asked everyone on the commission to reach out within their ward and make a connection, whether it was via email, via phone, or a friendly Zoom call with their council member, with a list of some ideas for talking points. And so I think that our conversation to kick off today's meeting was really fruitful, and hopefully we'll get some more talking points that we can add to for our next spring round. For policy, we would like to ask everyone to do a new outreach in 2021. I think the focus here should be on reconnection and appreciation. Certainly, if you have not reached out to your council member before, this would be a great time to make the introduction and let them know that you're serving on MAC. We'd like to share our work plans. And Hava is also working on a really lovely one-sheet document. If you are interested in seeing last year's rendition of the 2020 document with headshots and little bios for sharing, that is on Teams right now under the subcommittee for policy under files. So you're welcome to take a look at that for ideas. But this is also a friendly reminder, if you have not submitted your headshot and bio yet to Tina, that would be wonderful so that we can complete that work. We will be including the one sheet with any email outreach. At this time, we would like to leave it to your personal discretion if you'd like to email, or if you want to, introduce yourself in a Zoom call. That outreach component will be up to you. But we will share some talking points once we kind of make a more cohesive narrative in the meetings that we have in the weeks ahead. So please look for that to be shared. Everything is going to be posted on Teams. Anything that you would use for email outreach, talking points, that one sheet when it's done, will all live under the general tab. And there's a lot of, I like to call them the legacy documents that still live in SharePoint. For those of you who are not familiar with SharePoint, you'll be using me as your new secretary by saying, can you send me that link to SharePoint? And I will do it. And you will get on and have more information than you would ever desire. But if you desire a look through, key things to focus on would be the notes from last year's outreach. So in October, we had kind of a lengthy email list of responses that we got back from council members. I would like to paint a positive picture. I had a really great interaction with my council member, and I tried to reach out in some friendly capacities as a hello in between when I was asking questions about MAC work initiatives. So I encourage you to start building a relationship. And I think that we can really be a vehicle for change going forward if we start establishing ourselves early on in the year. So that's the reason this spring, please reach out before the next meeting. Know that there'll be more information coming with that one sheet before you do so. So it'll be something we'll be asking of you in about 2 weeks' time. Any questions? I am an email away. And I mean it. Please, if you have any questions on SharePoint or Teams or where things live, I'm happy to be a resource.
That's so helpful. And also too, with all the documentation that Lana's been putting together and has been kind of maintaining, there's also just if you're not sure who the aide is to reach out to for your council member, a lot of times it's easier to reach out to the aide to get something on the books with the council member to meet with them. So just consider that. And also too, it's really nice to be able to meet your council members' aides as well, because they're super helpful and they're workhorses for their council members. So it's nice to be on a first name basis with your council member's aide as well. So just consider that too. And that, I think that a lot of people have different levels of comfortability with meeting with council members, but just know that you have a right to talk to your council member. You're an appointed commissioner and your opinions are important. So I want to just lend you that confidence that they should be expecting to hear from you and for you to be wanting to have a relationship with them that can then benefit, all of our shared goals of supporting the arts in the city of Minneapolis. So thank you, Lana and Ahava, for the work that you've been putting in to get us prepared. I think there's a little bit of, I think I owe you some language for the back of that document. So I'll work on that a little bit and we'll see what talking points come through from the director too, if we want to include that as well. in our one sheet. So any other questions, concerns?
Just a quick question. You said there is a file on Teams. Is there a folder in Teams that I should have access to?
Yeah, I think so. I think that what Lana, and clarify if not, that there is an area on Teams where information can be shared, documents and files. I'm not sure if maybe it might be helpful just to show what the path of that is for those who might not be familiar.
Committees. Let me see if I can pull it up here. It should be branched out in your Teams. Like if you click on it, my bottom icon, just the same way you would join the meeting. You would open up your Teams and there would be Minneapolis Arts Commission. I think the first header is General Exec Access and Engagement Policy. If you click under each of those subcommittees, then you see a new profile. You can do chats. You can set up team meetings. You can share files. So under files is where the document share would happen.
Okay.
Let's see.
And if you still, are having trouble accessing it, I can tell you that Lana is really super awesome at getting back. If you just want to look at a document and you just can't access it on the platform, that you could get it emailed to you too.
Yeah. Lana, I might reach out to you. I have Teams for work, and so I have a lot of folders, but I just don't see a Minneapolis folder. So I'll reach out to you directly. Thank you.
That's great.
Awesome. Any other questions or comments?
Madam Chair, I just want to note that somebody just entered the meeting on the phone.
Oh, hi.
So I just wanted to give you a heads up about that.
Thank you. Hi. May I ask who joined us?
It's just David. I had to switch devices. Sorry about that.
Oh, okay. Good. Well, welcome back. We're just about done here. I think I want to honor the fact that we might be done early tonight, and everyone's had a very long day today. Is there any other? I want to say that I feel like the director coming to us and giving us such a comprehensive overview has really sort of just created an inroad that I didn't think we had before, and that it lends, I think, some hope and opportunity to I would just be transparent, the morale I'm feeling about this group, and about what we're capable of and the value that we bring. Does anybody else have anything to share before we depart? Okay.
I think can I just share that I just wanted to just acknowledge all of Tina and Mary's work too, ongoing, and what a valuable connection you both have been for this entire time. So, and just really appreciate you both. And then also just recognize, that what's happening in the shifts of your positions. So I'm interested in supporting you all as well.
Thank you, Crystal. That actually is super critically important. So yeah, I mean, the day-to-day, the amount of work that you put in and how you keep us moving forward. And Mary, even all the extra steps that you've taken even more recently to engage us. We thank you, Crystal, for that grounding factor. We couldn't appreciate you more and the work that you do. So thanks for sticking with us, even through some of our...
Say something about the fact that Commissioner Silky Jones probably entered the meeting 6 times, and we should really appreciate that she just keeps coming back. That most people would just leave if they were having that much technology stuff, and she just keeps doing it.
Well, thanks for letting me back in. I was wondering behind the scenes. Keeps popping up. I just want to add to that and say thank you, Joan, for your persistence. I know that there's been discouraging pieces of this process over and over again, and you jump on and join yet another committee, and we really appreciate your presence. But I also was not anticipating the director being so open and giving so much information. So I just want to say that I'm also feeling really encouraged and hopeful, and thank you for not giving up when so many doors closed, because this now feels like an open door. So this is exciting.
Thank you. Okay, so unless there's anything else, I think we can call it and you can have a few minutes back. Thanks, everybody. With that, we have completed all items on the agenda for this meeting. I will ask members and staff if there are any other matters to come before this meeting. Okay, if not, and without objection, I will declare this meeting adjourned. We will see you in our smaller committees, and we will see you next month for our larger meeting. Thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful evening. Thanks so much.
Good night.
Good night.